Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and critics connect. What I need you to do right now is hit that notification bell and subscribe. Follow me. We're on Facebook at Camille Essick. Also at the Speaker Podcast on Facebook. I'm also on TikTok and YouTube. And I would love to hear from you. Please send an email if you would like to connect with me at the Speaker Podcast at gmail.com. I have some amazing things coming up really soon. Heart and Soul 2024 is coming back. It will be live exclusively October 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my YouTube channel. And y'all, my website is up and is available. I have some new product out right now. I just recently released a new ebook. It's called Women Empowered Unleashed. That is available as well as Mike's Up and some other amazing things. So go right there, hit that notification bell and subscribe. Without further ado, my brother and friend is back. I'm always excited when Antwan pops up because we have such in-depth conversations. I love his perspective, his expertise, and just the vantage point that he gives with every conversation. So, Antwan, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be back. It's been too long.
Yes, and we're gonna connect really soon. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and talk about that now. So, if you don't know, every year, Antwan and Jeremy they have this amazing foundation. It's called the Aiken Foundation. Um, First of all, the holiday parties every year get better and better. It's for an amazing
Lit.
cause. So. We were kind of laughing about that offline, which we'll talk about that after the show. But I definitely want you to let everyone know just the history behind the Aiken Foundation, what it's about, and what was your inspiration for creating it, and what is it doing right now?
Yes, so the Aiken Foundation was created in 2020, and one of the main purposes of creating the Aiken Foundation is because we wanted to make an impact to people that look and feel like us. Oftentimes, there's people from the outside that come in to help us, but we felt like we had the resources to really help our own community.
Mhm.
One of the things that I'm really excited about that we're doing with the Aiken Foundation is our Student Access Fund, which is a scholarship fund where we're giving scholarships to minority students. And that's one of the things that I'm super, super passionate about. So, more to come with that. We're building partnerships with different educational institutions to really make that come to life because we know that education is a gateway for a lot of people to get out of their situation. So, we're making that come true for some people.
Absolutely. And you all donate funds for individuals at HBCUs like Morris Brown. And I
Yes.
and I think that's so dope. Last year, like the year before was cool, but last year, honey, you just had to be in the room. I was like, okay, I have church in the morning. I gotta go. I didn't want to leave, but I was like, the Holy Ghost, like, girl, you gotta go now. You gotta go now.
You gotta go. We don't want you missing church.
Yes, but I had such a good time and just so many personalities. First of all, people understand the assignment because it is Atlanta. So everyone comes, literally red carpet ready, almost dressed to the nines.
Literally.
The food is good, the environment is good, the DJ is good, just everything. Everyone has a great mindset as far as just wanting to mingle and get to know each other. And just every year, the personalities are bigger and bigger. We'll say that
Yes.
every year the personalities get bigger and bigger. But I'm here for all of it, and it definitely is one of the things I look forward to as we close out each year. So I cannot wait to see. I hope I see some of those same personalities from
You
last
will.
year.
You will.
Amen. So yes. Oh bless. So we're gonna understand the assignment and get right into this conversation. One of the things I love talking to you about, as far as just your perspective, as far as Black men and mental health, and one of the things I wanted to ask you, Antwan, is how do cultural perceptions about masculinity influence how Black men show up and express their feelings?
That is such a good question. So, when we think of culture, we first have to define what culture is.
Hmm.
And culture is one of those things where it is taught. So we're not just born into a culture. Someone has to teach us that this is our culture. And culture is also something that is passed down over time.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, some of those really toxic things that may not make us feel good as Black men are oftentimes passed down from the generation before. And we really have to work hard to put ourselves in a position where we're not feeling like we have to conform to the norm. So we don't have to conform to this is how things were done, this is how people see us, so this is who I am, that I can reinvent myself. I can be whoever I want to be, and I don't have to conform to what society or even what the generation before said that I had to be.
Mm. That's really good. And speaking like, hey, Whitney, we have, women that we know that are raising young Black boys. What do you say to those that may have young sons coming up and raising them as far as shaping their personalities or just guiding them in the space of being, a young boy into young manhood?
I think from a mental health perspective, one of the best things that you can do is to really allow a kid and just a person in general to be who they are.
Mhm.
So I think that sometimes if you see that a kid is really interested in something, then cultivate that interest. Even if that's something that goes beyond kind of what the norm of, oh, well, Black men usually do this or Black men usually do that, but really allowing that kid to be explorative and to really figure out what they want to do and being supportive of that. So if they have a really big interest in baseball, or if they have a really big interest in some sport that's not kind of the typical sport that you see a lot of Black males engaging
Like
in.
lacrosse or
Right.
tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many sports and there's so many different opportunities that they can have to really get that physical activity out. And sometimes we may kind of pigeonhole that you can only do this or you can only do that. So really allowing them to explore who they are.
That's really good. And then going into that, there are times where there's disappointment that comes when you're learning yourself in these different paths and journeys that we take through life. So, what have you learned pretty much about the resilience from facing disappointments in your life?
I think one of the things that I've had to learn, and I learned this in entrepreneurship, is that failure is a lesson. And I feel like
Mhm.
people say that, and I feel like it's one of those things that's easy to say until you actually fail. Especially when you fail in a way that costs you money or costs you opportunity or does something to make your life uncomfortable. But failure really is an opportunity to learn a lesson, and you shouldn't be failing the same exact thing twice.
Mhm.
So, any of the failures that I've had as an entrepreneur or just in life in general, I'm not making the same mistake over and over. I'm learning from that. I'm learning the lessons from that, and I'm doing what I need to do so that I don't repeat that same cycle.
That's really good. And then in that, what was maybe like a personal experience for you with that disappointment and how did exactly did you navigate it?
A personal experience with failure.
Or disappointment, because in life we have expectations and
Oh,
sometimes things don't really work out, the way we anticipated. So how did you navigate that space of disappointment?
that is a good question. So I always, ever since I was in high school, I wanted to go to law school.
I could see you
And
doing
I
it.
wanted to go to law school. And when I finished college and I was applying to law schools, I just wasn't really getting the results that I wanted to from the law schools that I wanted to. And it really put me in a place where I had to regroup and I had to really figure out what exactly do I want to do? And is law school what is going to help me meet that goal or objective? And there were other ways that I could continue to meet that goal or objective without going to law school. So I had to pivot. And I
Mhm.
think that sometimes that can be a really uncomfortable thing to do because we don't think about if we have a goal in mind and we don't meet our goal, we sometimes see ourselves as failures. We see
Mhm.
ourselves as, well, I'm not accomplishing my goal. I'm not doing good enough. I just had to pivot. I still was able to accomplish my goal. It just wasn't by going to law school.
That's really good. I heard something. I want to say today is what, Wednesday? I believe it was Monday, and I was listening to a portion of a podcast or someone that was talking, and they were just talking about we're in this shift within our society with technology and industry. And the piece of advice they gave was, "Don't be married to your degree," only because where we are, we're in a very pivotal place in our culture, and the world air quote that we knew, that generation, that's done. We're really entering a new, I guess you could say, dispensation. And when it comes to technology, information, the internet, and everything is changing, even with our social economic structure. And he said, do not be married to your degree, meaning be open to pivoting, maybe taking additional classes to learn a different skill, or seeing how your skill set can fit in another industry. So the fact that you brought up pivoting, I think is really, really good.
Yeah, I think that I mean when I feel like I can officially say back in the day, because I finished undergrad in 2011, so I can officially say back in the day. Back then, you went to school with the idea that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
That was just the mindset. That's not to say that's what we all did, but that was really the mindset. I feel like nowadays people really have to think this is what I'm interested in learning about.
Hmm.
But I can really make my own path into a lot of different ways outside of this if I'm not interested in this in 2 years or in a year.
Yeah, that's really good. And also, something that you brought up when you were discussing disappointment, as far as navigating it, and you were saying you had to make a decision, I need to pivot. And I think sometimes we can be so committed to the dream, or this is what I want to do, that sometimes that door that closes may be the sign, hey, you do need to pivot, and not being so loyal to what you had on your list that you miss that window of opportunity to shift and move into something else that can still assist you in making the dream and vision happen.
I completely agree. You know, I'm a person of faith, so I truly believe that if something is meant for me, then it's meant for me. But I
Hmm.
also recognize that not everything is meant for me in that moment. That sometimes what I want to obtain, I will appreciate it better once I've gone through some other stuff.
Hmm.
And some of that other stuff may be obstacles, some of that other stuff may be barriers. But once I finally get there, I will appreciate it more versus if I just get it right away, I may not appreciate it as much. So I just kind of have that mindset. Like if it's for me, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna work hard at it. And if I don't get it, that means that it just isn't for me at that time.
That's good. So going into that, like what ways have you shared experiences, particularly among your circle within your brothers, as far as being Black men, contributing to a sense of community and support? And then how do you balance those friendships in different stages of your life or different personalities? So I guess we'll do the first part as far as how do you share your experiences with Black men to contribute a sense of community and support.
So it's funny you say that because when we first started having these conversations about Black men and mental health, I know one of the things that I shared was that we talk, but we don't really talk. And I am happy to say that since doing these conversations, I have pushed myself to have more of those authentic conversations. And I think that that can take a lot of courage because you don't, when you put something out there, you don't know how it's going to be received.
Mhm.
And it's not something that you can take back. So if you share with somebody, I feel sad. Like I don't feel like I'm myself. You know, I don't feel like I'm reaching my potential. I really don't know what I want to do with my life. Once you put that out, it's hard to just take it back and say, okay,
Yeah.
pretend like you didn't hear that. So that requires a level of vulnerability that sometimes as Black men we just don't naturally have and we haven't been encouraged to do. So I have intentionally been doing that with some people in my circle. And I think that that has been very beneficial to me and to them because it now gives them permission to share. And I think that that's a great thing. Keeping things bottled up, I always say, and this is definitely a metaphor, and it's the most simplistic metaphor. But when you think about how powerful it sends a message that everything that goes in us has to come out. That's
Hmm.
in a literal sense and in a figurative sense. And figuratively speaking, all of the stuff that we deal with, all of the pressures of society, all of the life stressors that we deal with, those things have to come out. And we have to manage how they come out. They can come out in a form of anger management, they can come
Hmm.
out in a form of mental health, toxic relationships. There's a lot of ways that it can come out, but we can really be in control of how some of those things come out. And I really think having those conversations with people that you trust in a safe space can help you manage how you're dealing with some of those things.
That's really good. And it warms my heart because that's one of my goals with the space for brothers and why I opened it up because I want um men to do what you're doing, to say, you know what, I saw that episode and maybe I should try this, and create that space for each other. And like we've talked about before, women, particularly black women, we have, girl boss brunches, like all these spaces, the salon,
Mhm.
girl come over, like all these things that we do constantly, like we are just naturally cultivated to be communicators, but for
Mhm.
our male counterparts not so much. And so to hear you say that, since we have having these conversations, I'm like, oh, this is great. And so the fact that you're doing that and creating that space and opening up the door for communications and to be vulnerable, I think that's an amazing domino to fall and to continue to follow that. So that I'm excited to hear that.
Yes, yes. It's been I enjoy it. I mean, I think I'm already a pretty transparent person, but I think that even in saying that I'm transparent about what I feel comfortable being transparent about,
Yes.
and that may not necessarily be exactly what I'm going through at the time.
Right.
So
Right.
happy to report these conversations help.
Come on,
They're
come on,
transformative.
come on, testimony.
Transformative.
Thank you. And I think too, also doing that in a space that is safe, that you can do it and know that whatever you're sharing is not being weaponized. And I think that's one of the things about vetting anybody is saying, hey, this is a safe space. I'm a vault, you're a vault, and whatever we share, because we've shared things offline. And I can do that with you. And I know if I say something, it stays with you. And so
Mhm.
I think creating trust, fostering those relationships and reminding people of the trust and saying, "Hey, this is a vault. I won't weaponize this." That opens the door. That doesn't mean dump, but it just creates a safe landing pad. And I think more of our black men need it because, um, culturally, um, taking life into your own hands typically has not been a part of our culture, but within the last 20 years, statistically, the number is rising because of stress, pressure, things happening within our society. And so we really have to push more to create healthy spaces for our Black men to communicate. Because we talked about this on a previous episode. Like you said, what it goes in goes out. So it may be displayed as a being, oh, he's aggressive or he's angry. No, that's it's really sadness, but it may manifest as anger. For some men, it may manifest as alcoholism or substance abuse or promiscuity or being a workaholic. It's just the vice, but the root of it may be sadness.
Yeah, and I think even when you talked about trust, I think that's always a very interesting word. And I always push people when they mention trust. Oh, I can't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody.
Mhm.
Um, One of the things that I'm always pushing clients with is power.
Yes.
That we all have power and we all have autonomy over our lives and we all have the ability to make our own independent decisions.
Mhm.
In general, we all have that ability. But sometimes we can give power to other people and other things. And when we talk about trust, that is a power thing. I can not trust somebody, but I have so much power over my life that even if they're untrustworthy, they can't do anything that's going to take me off my path. And then also with trust, we have to give trust to receive trust. It's a two-way
Absolutely.
street. So
Yes.
we can't just expect like, oh, I can't trust you. It's like, well, I can't trust you either. So we both, that has to be a reciprocal process in order for us to build that trusting and comfortable relationship.
Absolutely. So, how do you manage or balance friendships? Because now we're in a space, we're over 30, we're starting to get older. I've been over 30 for a minute. But how do you balance friendships with difficult personalities and just life stages? Because recently online, I'm seeing more and more of my classmates either pass away, they're losing parents and
Mhm.
siblings, So, how do you balance the friendships with personalities that may not always be as pleasant and also with life stages?
So I think that as I get older, um, less is more becomes more of a reality. And I feel
Hmm.
like I've always heard people say that. I've always had a big friend group in adulthood. So I've
Yes.
always had a lot of friends and I've always valued having a lot of people. And I do have a lot of networks, but I think as I get older, I recognize that people play different positions in your life. And the position that somebody plays at one point in your life may not be their lifelong position. That
Hmm.
goes to that pivoting. Sometimes you have to pivot that position. You have to pivot how that person show up in your life, and you have to be comfortable with they're not showing up in my life in the same way that they used to, so they're now in a different category. And I think that that is a process for me because I'm a creature of habit. So the way you come in is the way that you stay. If you come in as my best friend that's always there for me, that's just kind of what I expect you to always be.
Innocent until proven guilty is how I play it.
Yeah, and it's like, but and sometimes I think that we pathologize it, but sometimes it's literally just I'm just a different person.
Hmm.
I'm a different person, so I'm gonna show up different in my friendships, and my expectations are gonna change.
Hmm.
So I think my younger self, um, as long as you showed up sometimes, and as long as we had a good time together, that was my criteria.
Hmm.
I think that now, at 35, in my mid 30s, it's more than showing up. You got to engage. You got
Hmm.
to add value. You have to push me. You have to cultivate the gifts that I feel like I have. There has to be like, I want you to really be an active part of my life and not just somebody that's just kind of coexisting that I'm having fun with.
Yeah.
That's not to minimize the people that I do have fun with, but I want a little bit more now. And that's
Hmm.
something that I didn't always feel.
And so for you as a man, what does that calling out on the carpet look like? Because I had a conversation with another guest, and we kind of brought up, I think it was Seals and Man a couple of weeks ago, and we're just talking about, particularly from the male perspective, accountability in friendships. Um, because sometimes we see men kind of what I call co-sign some foolishness, like, well, that's my boy still, even though it maybe is wrong as, two left shoes, but still co-sign like, and that's still my guy, that's still my friend. But at some point to say, hey, I need to pull your coattail, we need to talk, we're grown men now. That wasn't cool. So for men, because I know with women, when we're in that space, we're very quick to call each other out, like, girl,
Mhm.
you was wrong for that. You need to apologize. So what does that look like for men in that same space?
I'm still working on that part. I am the person, and I think that I'm a therapist, so I'm
Mhm.
naturally used to talking about how I feel, and I do feel like a lot of my male friends that is just something that they're just not used to really having to engage.
Mhm.
So I'm very comfortable saying that my feelings were hurt, that I was upset. I'm really comfortable expressing how I feel.
Mhm.
Everybody can't receive that though. And sometimes I think that it can come off like, oh, you're complaining or you're clingy or, a lot of that misogyny and some of the things that we kind of bring into manhood can really come out of me just legitimately expressing myself. So I found that in some situations, I will kind of suppress how I feel because
Mm-hmm.
I want to create comfort for the recipient, and that's not fair to me. So I'm working on that part.
So is that like non-confrontational? Just like, the comment here, it's just like a lot of guys ignore it. But if you are a man of integrity and character, and that's what you want to surround yourselves with, because on one end it's like, well, birds of a feather flock together. And even
Mhm.
if you are the stand-up guy, but then you have, you know, knucklehead in the group, something's gonna rub off somewhere.
Mhm.
Either you're gonna be more like him or he's gonna be more like you. So
Mhm.
where is the line drawn where you're stepping up as a man and not just ignoring it and saying, you know what, if this is the type of man that I present behind closed doors and to the world, then the people that encompass me or um circle me need to be a reflection of that as well. I mean, is that not the case, or am I wrong on that?
I think that is totally the case. I just need to take that advice sometime.
At least you're
But
honest.
I think that what I'm really learning is that I don't have to be black and white in the situation,
Mhm.
that I can really put distance between me and a person. That person may still be somebody that I love and care about, but we just aren't in the same place anymore. So I think that for me, I will kind of put distance with that person.
Mhm.
What I would like to be doing more of is having those conversations, because maybe that would be the first time that they had a conversation. So
Mhm.
they could be interpreting my distance as something completely different than what it is. They may not even know what they did wrong.
Mhm.
So I do think that I can do a better job of having that conversation and not being so perspective and like, okay, how are they going to perceive this conversation? How am I
Mhm.
going to come across? Am I going to look weak? Am I going to look needy? Am I going to look emotional? Am I going to look overly sensitive?
Right.
Those are things that I kind of balance, and those things sometimes will dissuade me from having the conversation that I need to have.
That's good. I think for myself in the last couple years, again, over 30, and you really begin to experience what I call those major life milestones, I started to ask myself, is this really worth my energy? And some things, I don't know if you remember Michael from TCMBA, but we used to have these conversations. I miss him so much. We used to have these
Yes.
conversations, and during one of our conversations, he asked me the question, and he said, what he would always ask himself is, 5 years from now, will this really matter? And if not, this is
Mm,
not the hill I choose to die on. And so
mm,
since then, I've kind of taken that philosophy with me. And it's just like, is this really worth my energy? Is the outcome going to really be what I would think in an ideal situation? Probably not. And so in those situations where I've experienced that with people, I just tend to, like you say, kind of just fall back. But I do make a mental note and say, okay, and learn, okay, maybe I should pull back from this situation so much. Not that we maybe have fallen out, but me realizing emotionally, or even what I call EQ, emotional intelligence, we're not in the
mm,
same space. So it's not that I've removed you from my circle, but maybe when you were in the inner court, you maybe have shifted to the outer court, so to say, and the
mhm.
proximity have shifted. So I can definitely understand your perspective on that.
So I rank in anybody that's a lot of my friends know this. I rank my friends in four categories.
Mm,
And I rank my friendship, and I use the metaphor of a delta plane, is how I
okay.
rank friendship. So I have my first class friends. That's, of course, going to be a very small amount of people. Then I have my delta comfort friends. That's a little bit bigger. Then I have my main cabin friends. That's where most people in my life reside. Most people are main cabin. So we're friends. I invite them to stuff. They invite me to stuff. And then I have my basic economy friends. And those, those are people that I know I see out, but we don't have that intimate one on one
I
relationship.
like that. I gotta take that.
Yeah, and I constantly assess who is in what position, because the thing about friendship, we do this so much in our romantic relationships, but we don't do this in our friendships. We're
That's good.
constantly saying, oh, well, I don't feel it anymore in my romantic relationship. I'm not engaged. You're not showing me that you're interested in me. We do that all the time in our romantic relationships, but then in our friendships, we just kind of put people in categories and we let them stay there forever, and they may not be doing the work, which
It
is
should have been an
fine.
economy because you didn't pay the price for first class, but you went
Yeah,
on
like
next. No.
you have to do the work. And for me, I've become very comfortable with saying that being my first class friend is a lot of work
Hmm.
because you're my first line of defense. You're the person that I'm leaning on. You're the person I'm expecting to be there. So if you aren't able to be that person, that's fine. I got to move you down the rank.
Or two, you might end up in main cabin.
You might end
Like,
up in the cabin.
because I had some people I thought were first class, and then they end up being business economy. And then I had some people that were biz co, and I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and upgrade your seat. You
Let's
know,
upgrade. Yeah. And I think that, we have to be comfortable with doing that. And I think that age definitely, you can attest because we both, hitting
that's
that
that's
age.
the line of the night because we've been over 30 for a little while now.
Once you get to that age, a certain age where things that used to matter don't matter as much. And the
Hmm.
things that didn't matter before matter more now.
Absolutely. So, as we get close to wrapping up, what initiatives or organizations, just to kind of pivot a little bit, have you been involved in to foster community among Black men?
So I'm involved in a lot of community organizations. So I'm really involved in Lead Atlanta. I'm really involved in Outstanding Atlanta. I've been involved with Leadership Buckhead, Leadership Clayton. So I'm involved in a lot of different leadership programs. And in these programs, I get an opportunity to meet some amazing Black men that are professionals in their fields, entrepreneurs. I mean, they're doing it. And I feel like I'm able to build those relationships where we can really have these kind of conversations. So I think that I'm using my network and I'm also using my gift because I recognize that it's a gift to be vulnerable. Like
Hmm.
I take it for granted because I've always been this way. I can remember as a kid, like my parents saying, like, you don't have to tell everybody everything. I've always been a very vulnerable person. I've always been very transparent. That's a gift. That's not something a lot of people can do. A lot of people cannot show up as their authentic selves and just perform and just execute. So I recognize that it's kind of my responsibility to create some of the safe spaces that I say that I want. And I feel like I'm trying to do my part.
That's amazing. I love it. So, as we begin to wrap everything up, first of all, I'm absolutely enjoying this conversation and learning more about you as a person and individual as we get into these conversations. So, thank you so much. And also, before we close things out, do you have any takeaways or nuggets or gems that you would like to leave with the viewers and listeners until the next time you come back? And then also, where people can find you on social media.
Always nuggets that people can take away. And I think that the biggest thing that I would really challenge people to think, and it goes along the lines of what you said that Michael said, Michael, an amazing person.
Yes.
I think that you constantly have to ask yourself, is this something that is serving me? How is this benefiting me? I think that the older that I get, the more selfish that I become, and I am completely okay with that. I'm okay
Mhm.
with being selfish. I'm okay with looking out for myself. I'm still doing my part. I'm still helping my community. I'm still giving back to my community. I'm still helping family and friends. I'm also very selfish. And I think that the more selfish I am, the more beneficial I am to the people that really need me and the people that I can really make a difference with. So I think that really making that prioritization in your life of who is that person or who is that community that I really need to pour into, and then who don't deserve me as much. And
Mhm.
I think that as we get older and as we get more mature, you mentioned emotional intelligence, all of those things, that that just becomes more of a reality.
Absolutely.
In terms of where people can find me, of course, the Aiken Foundation, amazing foundation.
Is
So we are always, we're a 501(c)(3), so all of our donations are tax deductible. So you can find us at www.theaikenfoundation.org. My Instagram, AG Aiken. And then also we got a brunch restaurant. So you can find us at Eggs Up Grill in
I need to
Marlboro.
pull up because breakfast is my favorite. It's just like every time I come, I'm having to turn around and leave. And I keep telling myself I'm going to come. But I'm like, then I'm laying in my hotel bed. I'm like, who is driving?
Look, we
But
got everything: bacon, eggs,
I don't eat pork
pancakes,
or beef, but I
waffles.
love a good chicken sausage or a good turkey sausage.
Oh, we our turkey sausage unmatched. I don't eat beef or pork either, so we got those turkey
I'm
options.
telling y'all, I want to come through because I'm the type of person I can do a good breakfast brunch, go back to my hotel, get under those covers around 2 and take another nap and let the Weather Channel watch me because I
Not watch you.
and I'm a French toast girly. Like I love thick, fluffy French
Me
toast with
too.
powdered
I
sugar,
love French toast more
with the
so
cheese
than
eggs.
pancakes or
Oh,
waffles. I love
yes.
French
And
toast.
good coffee. I'm ready. Like, yes. So I'm like, I'm small, but I got big girl tendencies. But I'm trying not to join that big back ministry. Like, I'm just,
we trying,
oh, okay, pop out.
trying.
I see your stories, but we're not gonna talk about Mr. Outside. Okay. Listen, y'all. So Antoine, he's a professor at Kennesaw State, very professional entrepreneurs. But if you want to light your hair on fire and have a good time, but you might want to sign a waiver, a NDA before you go, because it's like Vegas. Whatever happened, you stay.
We gonna turn up and have a
I've been
good
looking at the
time.
stories like God knows when to let you meet people. Because if I'd have met you like maybe 10 years, child, which leads us to the holiday parties. If yes, Mr. Outside. That's your new name, Mr. Outside,
Listen, I'll take it. I'll take it.
aka the party guy. But I mean, it's such a good time. It's for a good cause. And I'm the type of person I can just sit and watch and just enjoy. But last year they were trying to pull me in. I was like, wait, especially what's it called? We ain't gonna say his name, but you know what I'm talking about. I was
Yes.
like, I mean, right here. I was like, you know what? I gotta go. My passive discernment is strong and I need to leave now.
That was smart.
Yeah, but it was good time and I just enjoy meeting new people. And what is so amazing is every person that I've met through your organization, to this day, we still periodically keep in touch via social media. And I
So
love
I've
that.
heard, and I did not know that.
Yeah, we're gonna end this show and talk briefly offline. Not what y'all think. So you like see, let me I felt that in the spirit. Let me correct that. It's not what you think, y'all. But yeah, so we're gonna end this now. Everybody, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Speaker Podcast. We are not doing a live on next week only because I'm preparing for Heart and Soul 2024. That will be October 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusively on YouTube. I have an amazing panelist lineup for you all this year. And I guarantee you, this conversation will be one of the top tier conversations for this year as we close out. So be sure to follow me. I'm online. Hit that notification bell, subscribe on my YouTube or on Facebook at the Speaker Podcast, Instagram and TikTok, Camille.Essick, merchandise and everything available on my website at CamilleEssick.com. And I would love to hear from you. Send me an email at the Speaker Podcast at gmail.com. Again, thank you again. Shout out to those tapping in. Tunde, Marvin came in, Whitney, hey girl, hey. Miss Cheryl popped in, and I really appreciate you all for joining us on tonight. So we won't be here next week, but the event will be on the 31st. You all be blessed. Good night and be safe. Be safe and I don't know if you're cutting on the heat, but it is a little chilly. So grandma said, don't turn the heat on yet. You better get a blanket and wait because it's not that cold yet. But and we love you too, Whitney. Very proud of everything that you're doing. So we really appreciate you for hanging with us throughout the episode. But with that being said, everybody be safe, good night, and have a blessed weekend. Bye.